Hey there, today's episode is brought to you by Samaritan Ministries, a community of Christians who care for one another spiritually and financially when a medical need arises. It's biblical, affordable healthcare sharing. You can learn more at samaritanministries.org/The Forgotten Podcast.
Sharing the stories of the foster care community, this is The Forgotten Podcast.
Hey, it's Jamie Cabe. Welcome back to The Forgotten Podcast, where we are sharing the stories of the foster care community. With every episode, our goal is to learn from children, parents, and workers in foster care so that we can all grow in our awareness and be encouraged to support this community right where we live. In fact, if you are interested in being part of supporting the foster care community, starting next month, May 2023, applications to become a TFI advocate are open. Now, this only happens twice a year, and there are only a few spots available. So if you want to encourage your local foster care agencies and help churches become more aware of foster care, then you should apply. It's completely free, and we are here to help you along the way. You can learn more and sign up to be notified when applications go live at tfiadvocate.org. Now, if you enjoy this podcast, be sure to leave a review, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening and engaging with us. Okay, it's time. Let's do it. Well, here at the Forgotten Initiative, we are so passionate about helping the foster care community feel seen, understood, and cared for. And I think an important way to do that we believe in a lot is by sharing the stories of those in this community, and even more so giving platform to those who are living these experiences, giving them a platform and an opportunity to share their own story. And that's what we get to do on the podcast. And today I have with me Candace Franklin. Candace is a part of the foster care community in a couple of ways. She is a social worker and a supervisor at the Department of Social Services. She is also recently a foster parent, a licensed foster parent, and she is married to her husband, Charlie. And I see that you guys have a puppy. I love puppies.
Yes.
How is puppy life going?
Stay quiet. It's going well. I'm hoping she can stay quiet through this. You might hear her some whimpering every now and then because I had to put her in her little crate. But it is so fun. She's just a blast.
That's so fun. We recently got a puppy as well. He was not planned. We were in Florida, which is about 20 hours away from where we live. We were vacationing, and I got a wild and crazy idea that it was time to get a puppy. And I was able to convince my husband and our family, and we bought a puppy in Florida and drove that thing home. And so I love puppies.
Yeah.
Anyways,
the story with my puppy, it's such a beautiful thing because I had tried to convince my husband to have a puppy since we got married, and he was against it for a little while. And one day I was having just a really hard time struggling with infertility. I was having a hard day, and I told him, I said, something's stealing my joy. Something is stealing my joy. This isn't me. And he called me and he's like, we're going to take off early on Friday. We're going on a trip. And I'm like, okay. And my husband's into cars. So I'm thinking, we're going to go look at a car or whatever. And we pull up in this farm and there's a little puppy on the front steps. And I go to pick it up because I'm thinking, he's going to go look at this car on this farm and I'm going to play with this puppy. And, he says, I guess we'll take her home with us. And I said, well, what am I going to name her? And he's like, we're going to name her Joy so that nobody can ever steal your joy again. And so I was like, he did pretty good on that one.
He did pretty good.
He got some bonus
Way to go,
points.
Charlie.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
so he did. He did it.
Cool.
He hit it.
That's really special. I love that. Well, before we begin, Candace, is there anything else that we should know about you, to help our listeners have context as we get into your story?
I can't think of anything. My story is all just the unexpected journey that God has put me on, and just how I want to bring awareness of the need for foster parents and the awareness of, how to meet foster children's needs. And that's just really what I look forward to sharing.
Awesome. Well, let's get right to it then. How did you first even decide on becoming a foster care worker, a social worker? How was this birthed in your heart?
So I was graduating college, and I was just putting out job applications, just trying to find employment. My first job right out of college was a group home, and I was a house parent for teenage boys. That was a whole different species to me, because I didn't know what to expect with that. And a lot of those children that was in my cottage were in foster care in the department's custody. And that kind of opened me up to the supervised visits and the feelings that our children were going through when court dates were coming up, or when they were getting to go home like that. I was opened up to that aspect in life. And I was blessed with some incredible parents, so I didn't understand the path that they had walked. But it really just humbled me into being so blessed with the family I had. And I wanted to give that to my children in my cottage. Now, I was 22 at the time, and these boys were 16, 17-year-olds. And I told them, I'm not trying to replace your mother. You will always have a mother, but I'm here, and we're going to learn about how to appropriately engage with female adults in your life. And it was a real beautiful experience. And then, of course, I worked with the teenage girls in their cottage for a little while, but my teenage boys, they had something that just tugged at my heart. And then I got the opportunity to go to work at DSS as a social worker in that same county. And we were doing blended cases. So I had to do intakes, assessments, investigations, in-home foster care. I actually did some foster parent recruitment classes. I wanted to know all about it. And I was thankful for that opportunity there, because I got to see every aspect of child protective services and foster care. And with the blended, sometimes I'd work with families 3 and 4 years. And I got really close with our families and our children. So at that time, I wanted to broaden a little bit further and go work at a bigger community, a bigger county, a bigger city. And I worked in a bigger DSS doing just foster care by myself in a town, living by myself. And I really wanted to be submerged in a different culture than what I was raised in. I wanted to be able to serve a bigger population. I wanted to work with families. And I'd say this as a foster care social worker. I love to see families being reunited, and I love to see children see the progress their parents have made, because at the end of the day, these children love their parents. There is nothing we can do to prevent that And I would never want that to happen. And I also love for a child to have permanency, whether it be adoption or guardianship or what have you. I just love for that child to have that consistency and structure that we all need in life. And so I had so many families that I worked with, and I could tell you, I might not remember every child's name, but I remember their faces. I remember how they smiled. I remember, and to this day, I still think back at some of the children I served on my first job at the group home. These boys are now having their own families and having their own children and their own careers. And I'm just like, I'm not their mama, but I'm a proud mama for them.
I love that.
So we just, I just had a tug at my heart always around foster children. And then I met Charlie, and it was time for me to come back home to my home county where I was born and raised. And a supervisor position come up open, and I prayed about it, and I thought, I'm going to take it. I'm going to go for it. And it was a whirlwind because we bought a house, and then COVID came in, and it was crazy. But one of the questions in my interview was, what brings you back to your community? And I said, I've been submerged in different cultures, different lifestyles, and I absolutely loved it. But now it's time to come home and serve my community and serve my families and my children. And I mean it. I'm so excited. I've been a supervisor for about 2 years, over 2 years. And I just love being submerged in my family and my community. And, the conversations I have with the foster workers and the foster care supervisors is how the children we're serving today fits in a different category than the children we served 10 years ago. It's just, and we have to accommodate the changes. Foster care children are carrying so much baggage and so much on their little shoulders that they should never have to carry. And they do it. And if I can lighten that load in any way, I will try. So when I got married to Charlie in 2021, immediately my plan was to start having children of our own. But we've always talked since we started dating, we wanted to foster. We wanted to be a foster family. We wanted to, again, give our children in our community somewhere to stay rather than giving them the culture shock of having to stay outside of their county or their community. So we started that process up. And again, like I had mentioned earlier, we started infertility treatment along with our foster care training. So we had a lot coming at us. But we started the foster parent training, and I was just so humbled seeing Charlie respond to the foster care training and asking really good questions and just diving in. And at that point, I said, I knew he was the one. But when I found out that he wanted to align with me and God and serving the children, I thought, I think I did pretty good to choose him.
Yeah.
But, and we were open to we haven't had a foster placement yet. We're still just waiting, but in the waiting, we are getting informed and educated on foster care. And, I'm giving Charlie, the policies and regulations that DSS has to go through. And we're just in the waiting. That doesn't, for us in the waiting doesn't mean we just sit still. We are, we're praying, and we're being educated. We're reading on policies. We're getting our house ready. We're doing everything instead of just sitting still. And there is times that we pray constantly and, pray for the parents that we may serve and pray for the children we may serve. And just kind of see what door God opens for us. And, we're excited. I feel like we have, a really great opportunity, and, we'll see what door God opens for us.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing
There's a lot
your
of stuff.
heart. Yeah, it's cool to hear how God has put that heart in you for a long time, and how you've been able to live out, really care for these kids in different ways. I want to kind of hone in on when you first became a social worker, when you first, entered even with those boys and even that next role. What were your expectations of what it would be like to be in this role? And did those line up with your reality?
No.
I figured.
So I even joke about it now. When I started to be a social worker, I wanted to fix everything and give everybody just a perfect picture and, just everything be okay. And I do everything I can that I can do it. I could fix it all, and I could, fix these families. And the longer I got involved, I had to learn to meet the family and meet the children where they were. That I didn't, that I couldn't, and the reality of the situation that sometimes a child will not be reunified with their parents, or a parent will relapse, or, just because I had all this energy and excitement to correct something, if I wasn't met with that same level, it wasn't going to happen. And I had to be okay with that. And so I often joke with our new social workers that I encounter, and they're like, we're just real excited to work with people. I was like, oh, okay, that'll fade. But really, it doesn't fade. It's just, you just want to be so, you want to be a superhero. You want to just help everybody at all the time. But then you have to take a step back and say, sometimes it can't be fixed. Sometimes the situation is uncomfortable and you've poured everything into it and it still doesn't work out. I still have cases in my mind that just like, I wish it had went this way and it didn't. And I would lose sleep at night and I would cry about it and I'd pray about it and just be like, what else can I do? And there was nothing else I could do. It just had to work out naturally the way that God had intended. I think what I enjoy the most is I have experienced some incredible people that are social workers, incredible GALs, incredible therapists that all want to serve and help children. And that's really where I pour where I have like a little toolbox is what I call it, of knowledge, but I throw in anything another social worker has done that works well for them. And, so I have 11 years in this toolbox of stuff that I have used with my other workers. And, it's a community of social workers that you have to feel comfortable venting to. You have to be comfortable coming to and saying, hey, I'm struggling. What do I do? And I've been blessed with that. I've had, like I said, some amazing social workers and supervisors I've worked with. And then you also have to have, another thing that I had thought when I'd started was that people were going to be proud of what I do. Like I was going to be I was going to be looked at in a positive way. Okay. That did not happen. And that, just the look on people's faces when you say, oh, I work for DSS. I'm a social worker. Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to be liked. And I often joke about, I would love to go to a family's home and they look forward to seeing me. And they see my car pull up and they're like, oh, it's Candace, but you don't necessarily get that. And that's okay too. So yeah, just these big, realizing I can't do it on my own and realizing that I have to be okay with how things turn out if I've poured everything into it and be okay with it. And just be there. Just be there.
I think that what you have shared is so common among foster parents, among workers, among really most people who care, because we think we want to go, and also humans, because we naturally think about ourselves, right? Even in our effort to think about others, we find ourselves thinking about ourselves. Like, I love how you shared that you wanted people to be proud of you. I mean, that's such a natural, normal feeling, right? And I think that's why I love being engaged in the foster care community, is because it's so refining. Like, I think people sometimes do look at you, especially as a foster parent, and say, wow, you're amazing. And as foster parents, we're like, no, I used to think maybe I was more amazing. Now I've seen, how not amazing I am, because our sin and our flesh and all of that gets wrapped up right in there. But I mean, I can struggle with that savior mentality still. I wish I could say I've just completely done with it. That is something, when you care, you want to help, you want to fix, and you just go all in sometimes, and you forget that your strength comes from the Lord, not from your heart.
Yes.
Yes. And yes. I think that's just so normal. It's so human. And I love the Lord for gently reminding us that it's not about us fixing, or it's not about us looking a certain way, or it's not about us being the savior. It's about us being faithful, right? Like, it's about his, really first and foremost, his faithfulness, his work in us, and then his work through us. So, but I do think that success is simply faithfulness, because we can't, we're not big enough. We don't have the perspective enough to know what is actually best in all circumstances, in every situation, right?
Right.
So I appreciate that you share, because it often comes from a place of care, right? You're sad about the brokenness, and you want to do something about it. But I think as humans, we still can get ourselves too involved in some ways. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that what I do get caught up in what I can do but I have to remember, I'm just a vessel. I'm just, for God to pour into me what I can do. And at night, there's certain children that come into my heart, and they keep me up at night, like I've said. But, I just pray, God, let them see you, let them see you, let them see this beautiful thing that we have in life. And it's his unconditional love for us. And whether it be, something I do or something, whatever, let them see you, and let them see that there is a fatherly love, that a heavenly fatherly love that no person on this earth can compare to. Right. And so that's the thing that I pray over each child that I encounter, and I'm just a vessel. That's all. That's, and I pray daily that God will fill my vessel so that I can just pour out his love for others.
Amen.
Hey, a quick word from our sponsor, Samaritan Ministries. God's love is steadfast and true. He cares for us, and he calls us to care for one another. And Samaritan Ministries connects hundreds of thousands of Christians across the nation who come together through prayer, encouragement, and financial support when a medical need arises. It's not insurance, and there are no networks, so you get to choose the healthcare providers and treatments that best meet your family's needs. Your medical bills are sent to Samaritan Ministries, and then they notify fellow members to pray for you and send money directly to you to help pay those bills. When the body of Christ comes together to pray, encourage, and provide for one another, burdens are lifted and God is glorified. This applies to all areas of life, including healthcare. You can learn more at SamaritanMinistries.org/The Forgotten Podcast, and we want to say a very special thank you to Samaritan Ministries for sponsoring today's episode. Now, back to the show.
I would love, Candace, for you to speak more to that sleeplessness. I think that, and the impact of seeing so much trauma, this thing called secondary traumatic stress is when you are around trauma so much that the effects of trauma actually impact you, even if you personally did not experience that trauma. And I think the majority, I would guess, of our workers are experiencing effects of secondary traumatic stress, which can look like PTSD. It can look like sleepless nights. It can look like more anxiety, depression, all of those things. Talk about that and this reality of hearing really hard stories, seeing hurt, seeing brokenness so much. How does that impact you? And start there. How does that impact a person?
So it is a negative part of my career, and it's very real. And I think where I had been in it so long, I recognize it real quick, and I try to, pray about it. And, the sleepless nights, that's where I'm constantly, praying about it, tossing and turning, and finding my support system. Within my work group, having somebody to vent to talk to when stuff doesn't feel right, talking to them, because, our family's like, Charlie's sweet and he wants to be there for me. But when he's like, hey, honey, how's your day? And I'm like, well, I had to remove a child. I had to testify. And he's like, oh, that's nice. But they don't necessarily get it the way my coworkers do.
For sure.
And so just finding that group that you can vent to and, asking, I have a really supportive group of ladies at my church that I could just a group text send out and say, I'm having a really hard day. Please pray for me. I had a really tough situation with a kiddo. Please pray for me. And the anxiety of really just the exposure of trauma that these children have been through is hard. Me just being completely vulnerable right now, my husband and I are going through infertility, and we see these children being abused and neglected. And I'm like, you're not supposed to ask God why or question him, but I'm like, when is it my time? When is it my turn to be a mother? And so, especially since going through infertility treatments, like we have, I have noticed myself getting in that valley real quick, but then I'm like, it's just having to realize God is saying, not now, just not now, just wait, just hold on, see what I've got for you. Cause and, that's me being completely vulnerable in this situation where, there's times where I'm just like, I'm so frustrated. Why is this happening? And then you see parents make that turn, or you see the children are in a stable foster home and the plan changes to adoption. Like, all that exposure was worth something because we were there. We were able to get them out. We were able to, get them permanency. But the secondary trauma, I could tell you, we get trainings on it all the time. And it's kind of like, you can take trainings all day long, but until you're actually submerged in it, you don't really know the impact. But I'm faithful. Like I said, I have a really good group of supports, and there's been, burnout is real in our career and at DSS. So you just have to realize what your supports are and where do you get your strength from? Where do you find your joy from and your happiness? And where are you finding it? Are you finding it in TV? Are you finding it in your hobbies? Are you finding it from the Lord? Where are you getting your strengths? And I find my strength comes from my Lord. My cup overflows every day almost, because I have to keep centered with Him, because I can get wrapped up in all this stuff, and it could lead me down a deep, dark valley. And it just comes with years of experience of knowing, okay, this is triggering for me. How is my body reacting? How am I reacting? Let's try to figure out how to get me back on track.
Yeah. When you sense that trigger, practically, what are some things you're doing? You're taking it, of course. First, it sounds like going right to the Lord. You got to help me change my perspective, but are there any sorts of other things that you're doing? Like you're noticing this and you're changing.
Yeah. So like the tightness in my chest is my first thing. Is just like, oh, okay, so this is happening. Okay, what's going on? And then I do the grounding. Trying to hear trying to see 5 things, hear 4 things, smell 3 things. The grounding technique. I do that, and I just find a coworker. And say, I need to process this. I need to figure out, why is this affecting me so much? Just that's my go-to, because, and sometimes that's all the time I have. I don't have time to relax and step back, because I'm in the field. I'm out in the middle of it trying to navigate it. So it's more of just kind of, how do I say it? Just kind of put a Band-Aid on it until I can get somewhere and stay and calm, and then process it. It's almost, in certain situations, I have to desensitize from it and just kind of be like, okay, this is bothersome, but I can't deal with that right now. I have to react. And then, pray about it later, or journal about it later, or, whatever I can.
Wow.
But
that takes effort,
so many,
doesn't it?
It does.
To really ground yourself.
Life catches up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a busy day at work, and then you come home and you've got to take care of stuff at home. So sometimes you can forget. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, oh, well, that didn't sit well with me. What was that? And then you kind of have to stir it back up and process it. But if you don't process it and you don't move forward, it's going to be there. And it's not fair to the families we serve or the children we serve if we're constantly being, I guess, pulled back from that. We have to be able to move forward.
Wow. I think that is really... I really appreciate that, very tangible, because it gives me, like, I can just see it. I can feel it. You feel your chest tightening. You do the grounding exercise. You try to talk to someone. And it sounds like you said, if you have more time, you would then go to, like, kind of step away and relax and pray and try to journal and get it. But like you said, that's not always possible in the moment. Wow. I think that's so good, and just important for us to know and to hear and to recognize this is the reality of our nation's social workers, our nation's caseworkers, and those in the field. Like, there's no superhuman out there, right? We're all impacted by hard things because it's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah. And growing up, I'm positive there were foster children in my school, and I always questioned why a certain person was coming to pick them up and it wasn't their parents. But I was never fully exposed to that. And so the longer I got in my job and doing what I do, it's right down the road from us. It's our neighbors. It's our families that we go to church with. It's our families that we see in the grocery store. It's closer to home than people really realize. And it goes back to also the need for foster parents in our community, so that it's not so hard for these, especially older teenagers that's established in a school, not to change their school and not to be moved to a different part of the state. I was blessed to stay in the same home my whole entire childhood and never switched schools, never changed anything like that. And I just can't imagine, what children go through. And so I get out and I talk to my church and I talk about recruitment any chance I get, as far as, hey, do you want to be a foster parent? Like, let's talk about it. It's such a need. And that's why really me and Charlie always talked about being foster parents, but I've seen too many times children being moved across state or children being moved away that they're in an area they're not familiar with and they just plummet. And there's some that do really well in a different area, but it's where their roots are. And I know for me, I want to be in my community with my people and my peers. So I try to recruit as much as I can. It's almost like my soapbox when I go out in public, because if I meet somebody and I'm just like, hey, you want to be a foster parent? I can hook you up with some people. And, and I've noticed even my mother and my dad doing it, talking about foster parenting, and, they'll go to like car shows and talk to people there. And, Charlie will talk to people at work, and it's all about just spreading that knowledge. We need help. We need to keep our kids somewhere that they feel safe and they want to.
Well, we say
in their home. Like if it can't be their home, Candace. Let it be somewhere that they're familiar with. I think our small county. Our county is super small, but we have 11 foster families in our county. Just 11 foster families, and we have almost 40 foster children in our custody. And it's just a dire need here. And I couldn't imagine, I know it's where the other counties I worked at, that was a need as well. But I think if we could just bring awareness of what's needed. And if you can't foster and you can't be a foster parent, you're not in a ability to do that, reach out to the DSSs and say, hey, what else can we do? We can't foster, but do you guys need hygiene products? Do you need clothing? Like, what else can we do? And one thing the Forgotten Initiative did that I just, it makes me so happy is, we had a situation where children had to be placed out of their community, and the Forgotten Initiative bought the children yearbooks from their old school. And that little thing that they did so they can take it with them. I was like, it's just the little things. If you can't be a foster parent, that's fine. See what else. See if you want to give back, see what else. Contact us. There's plenty of need. We can figure it out. So yeah, it's I really just want to serve. I really just want to help our children, because that's what they are. It takes a village.
Well, I just really, I love your heart. And I want our listeners to know that you're representing so many men and women in the same role who have this deep desire to help and to serve because they care. And it's hard, and we need to support you also, so that you can continue to support the kids in your care and the families in your care. Like this whole village thing, it's for the children. We want to be a village for the children, but the way we're a village for the children is by helping all the different people who connect to the children, right? When we strengthen up all the supports around them, we're for sure helping them at the same time. And that's something we're super passionate about. We say often well cared for people, or well cared for leaders, or well cared for social workers, you could say, but well cared for people care well for people. And so we want to help people care well for other people, because we know there's a ripple effect when that happens. It doesn't stop just with that one person. Then that person cares well for others. Yeah. Well, Candace, I want to really thank you for being here today, for sharing your heart for our nation's kids, for sharing your vulnerability and your perspective. I would love it as we close out, if you would just think about some of those workers that you know, or even think about yourself on those really hard days. I would love you to speak to the worker right now who's listening, who is having a really hard day, or maybe a really hard season, who is just discouraged, who's even wondering, can I continue this work? I care, but I am so tired. I don't know how to keep going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would just encourage you to find what brought you in this job, what has brought you here. Find that purpose and build on it. And if it's you wanted to help families, or you have been in foster care yourself, or you have seen trauma and you want to help others, build on that. Find your strength from that purpose, because there's going to be seasons in this job that will be unbearable and it will be very difficult, but you're here for a reason and your heart's in the right place. And if you're responding to this season where it is impacting your mental health and your emotional health and your home life, you're doing something right. But we can find support for you, because if it's affecting your heart, then your heart's in the right place. We are a community of social workers. We've all been through some really hard times. So sometimes you have to just put it out there and vent, and let's move on and figure out how to be better prepared, because it's going to come in waves. There's going to be days that's just you want to walk out and you want to be done. And then there's days that you can't imagine doing anything else, because that purpose is put in your heart for a reason. That what you're doing and why you're here is for a specific reason. And I pray that you will find your purpose, and that you know that God has brought you here at this very moment, knowing that you are going to do incredible things with these families through Him. He's gonna provide you with the tools. He'll provide you with the things to say, and that you will make an impact, whether it be small or large, or they may never want to see you again, but you have planted that small seed of consistency, of hope, of attention and love that some children may have never experienced before. So, I encourage you to find where your joy comes from, where your happiness comes from, and cling on to it, because we may not have many happy days in this career, but when we do, it's so worth it, because you look back at all the mountains we climbed and all the court sessions and all this that the trauma that we had to walk through. When we have a good day, really build on that and focus on that. And just stay strong and cling to whatever path Jesus throws in front of you. Just stay on it.
Thank you so much, Candace.
Because there's a reason you're here.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is made possible by Team 310, a group of people from all across the country who give monthly with the shared dream of seeing God throw open the floodgates of heaven so that every child, parent, and worker in foster care feels seen, understood, and cared for. To join Team 310 or learn more, head over to theforgotteninitiative.org/team310. That's theforgotteninitiative.org/team310. And remember, if you are someone passionate about supporting the foster care community, starting next month, applications to become a TFI advocate will be open. This opportunity only comes around twice a year, and there are limited spots available. So if you are interested in supporting your local foster care agencies and raising awareness of foster care within churches, then this is the perfect chance for you to get involved. The best part is that it is completely free, and our team will be there to assist you throughout the entire process. You can learn more and sign up to be notified when applications go live at tfiadvocate.org. All right, my friend, thank you for listening. I look forward to being back in this space together very soon.